All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. Our last video, we went through and did, kind of showed you guys how I make them and the processes that it takes to go through and make one of those. This video, I figured I'd do an actual install on one to kind of give you guys an idea or directions on how they actually get installed. I do have directions online via paper and all that kind of stuff, but figured maybe the video would be a little bit better and easier to follow. All right, once you get your Safari unboxed, get it laid out on the table, kind of make sure that everything's there. What you should be getting are some latches and hardware that go with that, the little screws that go on the side to hold everything together, various other nuts and bolts for the install, some tabs, sliders, and your rubber seal, and obviously the frame. All right, once you get everything laid out on the table, verify that everything's there, you can go ahead and start the process of installing it. First thing, obviously, you're going to want to do is remove your glass. I'm not going to go through and teach you guys how to remove the glass. You should already be able to know how to do that if you're getting into one of these kind of safaris. But first things first, get it all cleaned up. You know, a lot of this is going to be visible now that you have the frame in it. But first thing I do is grab your favorite painter's tape, lay it across the bottom. This is more just for protecting your paint because you will be setting it down in here on this channel a couple times. Let's get some tape across the bottom. Make sure it's nice and tight inside there. Put some across the top. This is more just so we can make marks where things are in center and you're not marking up your paint. No, I did not intend to have my tape match the frame. I just got lucky, I guess. Okay, once the tape's all there, you're really kind of ready to just start setting up and getting ready for the install. Best thing to do on your frame, get your frame together. Right now they aren't attached. They're still two pieces, or two loose pieces I should say. Set it in the hole, and then you're going to want to eyeball, or measure, if you're not comfortable with eyeballing, measure your gap on this side on the bottom and your gap on this side on the bottom. Make sure that they're even. And then once you get it set in the hole, we got our hinge up here. Grab your pen, and you can mark the edge of your hinge on both sides. And then you should be able to see the holes inside here where we're going to attach. I'll just go through and I'll make a center mark on each one of those. That way I know exactly where they're at. And then take the frame out, set it aside. And then your best thing you can do is get your tape measure out. Mine's over here. And you're going to measure from this lip that's in here. You're going to measure out 7/16 of an inch and make some marks across each one of those. A lot of times I just do the two ends. Get you a good mark in there. Good cross mark. And then you're going to take a couple of these self-tapping screws that I give you guys and a drill impact. Hopefully you got one of these. If you don't, you just got a drill. It might be best to get a very small drill bit and drill these first. And then you can use a hand screwdriver, but this is what I like to use. Put it right up under there in that cross. Don't go all the way in, especially with an impact. You go all the way in, you're going to strip that out, and you're going to be kind of pissed off later. Do it on both sides. Take those all back out. And then you'll take your frame and you'll stick it back up in there. Center it up where your marks are and just make sure that you got them right. Boy, you make sure you got them right. You'll be mad if you don't. Okay, now that we've kind of double checked, we'll pull the frame back out and we will take our screws. These are little tiny guys. Don't drop them on the floor. They are a pain in the butt to find once you do, trust me. And I just secure the frame in. I just put one on each side. You got 2 holes each side. I do just one because you're going to be pulling this all back apart, and 1 or 2 times. All right, once you get those in there tight, then what you're going to want to do, this is if you got a buddy or a wife, husband, whatever you got, none of my business. It's best to get a friend. Let's just put it that way, to put this in. I've done several, so I've gotten my ways of how I put them in by myself, but you're definitely going to want a friend to help you with this. And then take it out, put your hinge up a little bit. Obviously, you're going to want to do all this without the glass in it. Don't do the glass. Screw goes in the hole, and then we just take and stick them in. We got one there. Let's see, my dumbass didn't grab a... Oh, I did. It's right there. See, that's what I get. And then the second one. And that's pretty much just hanging. And that's what you're going to want. Make sure it all works real good. Don't worry about doing the rest of those at the moment. We'll do those a little bit different. Unless you want to keep your friend around, you can drill them up. Let's just go ahead and put them all in. This is probably what you're going to do with your friend. The rest of them we didn't pre-drill. I just use the self-tapping screws. That's what they're there for. Hold it up, start in the center hole. Not too hard. It's the best thing about the self-tappers. You can do this with your drill if you had a drill and you didn't have an impact. But by God, don't be just driving them all the way home, because you're going to strip them out and then you're not going to be happy. Okay, we got those in. You're going to see a little bit of pressure. That's fine. Don't worry about the pressure. And then once they're all in, then you're going to go on the inside and you'll start doing your work on the inside. So I'll kind of get this flipped around and we'll come back and we'll look at the other side. All right, now that we're on the inside of the car, we can finish up the install. First thing you're going to want to do is grab your 2 sliders. And you should get 2 of these 1/4-20 stainless steel nuts and bolts. We'll go ahead and put those on. All right, once those are in, then you want to tighten them up. The nut is 11 millimeter. Screw them down. I usually go tight and then just give it a little bit of a relief, just so it's not super tight. You want them to kind of slide, but not by much. A little bit of friction's best. That's a little tight still. Okay, once those are in, then you're gonna grab your 2 weld-in tabs. These tabs that come with it, they're actually intended to weld to the car on this A-pillar here. I know there's a lot of guys that prefer not to weld because your car is painted and all that kind of stuff, and that's fine. A lot of guys don't use the self-tapping screws to hold these in. What you're going to want to do is you want to go down the hardware store and get a couple of those nutserts and some bolts that go with it. Drill both, put your nutsert in, and then you got a bolt. Make sure you use some Loctite. The reason that I recommend that these are to be welded in, there's a couple reasons. From the factory, the buses, that's the way they came. The tabs came welded in. And I tried to make these to have the appearance that like maybe they could have been an option from the factory, even though we all know that that's not the truth. But on the buses, they're welded in, so I put them, I recommend them be welded in. Also, for welding them in, I do run mine wide open. And I've run it wide open down the freeway at 95 miles an hour. And if you think I'm BSing on that, ask anybody that's run with me. They can tell you. 200-300 mile car shows up in Seattle or down in Medford. We've gone to some shows, driven down there. Those are each 200-300 miles away, and I've rolled the whole way, all the way down the freeway, wide open. And you know, we're reaching speeds of 89 miles an hour at times on a closed course, of course, not out on the main freeway. Got to state that so someone doesn't get me in trouble. But if they're welded in, the thing's secure. You're not going to have this big movement on the A-pillar and start wearing stuff out. So don't use self-tappers. But if you don't want to weld, use the nutserts. They are almost as good as the welding. And then make sure you use some Loctite. So way to install these is they go from this side in with the wing nut. Just like so, both sides. And then what I do is I pull it tight closed, slide these all the way down to the bottom to where they meet up with the A-pillar. Slide them down as far as you can. Should almost touch that bracket. And I tighten them up. Both sides. Let's tighten that guy up just a tiny bit more, just so it's not moving around on me. And loosen it back up. Once we're installed, we can loosen it back up. Okay, so that's there. And then what you're going to want to do, we're not going to go through the process of here because I'm not going to actually weld this in or true it in, but you're going to want to, I usually take some tape on my cars. This is how I do it on mine. Just because you got to grind away the paint. Tape off where you don't want to grind. It just kind of gives you a spot, and then you'll loosen these back up. Mark where you're going to put them. Actually, grind off the paint, and then putting it back up. And if you tighten this down, it'll hold it. You can weld this on. You can weld on the inside also if you want to weld on the inside. I don't, but it's not a bad idea too. But you get it all welded in, and that is pretty much how they install. Next, you're going to take your latches You'll get 2 latches, a rubber gasket, and then a couple hardware bolts that go on it. Gasket obviously goes between the frame and the latch. The latches are side specific. There is a right and a left, so make sure you grab the right one. Get them in there. They don't need to be super tight, like so. And then you're going to get dash tabs. A couple of these short dash tabs. Sometimes, as you can see, these have like an arch to them. You know, and as I say, these are all handmade one at a time. Sometimes I've made a mistake in not getting that arch all the way bent over. So, you know, if you may have to do a little bit of rubbing on it. And then that goes in right in there. Make sure it's centered. And then you're going to drill in. You'll get 2 more or 4 more of these self-tapping screws. You're going to set that up in there centered. Actually, you know what? You're not going to do that first. I forget. Once it's all done, then you're going to want to take your rubber seal. Before you put these latches on, or these tabs on, you're going to want to have your rubber seal all the way around it. And what that's going to do is allow you to get this stood off far enough. So we'll kind of simulate that, and I'll go grab a small section of rubber seal and kind of show you how that goes in. All right, now that we got the latch is going, I'm not going to install the other side. You get the idea on the one side. Then you're going to get these dash tabs. These are actually going to go in last, and I recommend that they go in after you have. Once you get to this step and you're all welded in, everything's going to come off. You're going to set it aside. You'll pull apart the 2 sections of the window, and you'll insert your glass and the rubber seal into the frame. I do have another video on the YouTube. It's going to be down below. It is of a rear Safari, and I install the glass and the processes of how that glass gets installed into that frame. So make sure you check that out. It's the same concept for all of my frames on how you install the glass into the frame. So make sure you grab that. I'll see if I can grab the link, and I'll link it below so you can get directly to it. But once everything is done, glass is installed, you've gotten back to this process. Before you put those frames in, you're going to want to grab your rubber seal. And this is really just a pinch welt seal with a bubble on it. Bubble goes to the outside. And I just got a small section because I'm going to show you the latches, the latch tabs on how those get installed. So best thing to do is you get your seal all the way in, all the way around, and it really just kind of clamps on like so. And it goes all the way around. On the seam, there's going to be a seam. For the one that goes on the pinch weld, you want the seam down here in the center, not at the top. If you put it at the top, as the rain kind of comes down, rain can either get in between your seam and start dripping inside, or believe it or not, that bubble seal will fill up with water all the way around, and it'll just be full of water. So make sure on the pinch weld seam that that is actually at the bottom. Now on the rubber seam for the glass, I put that at the top. Mostly just because the hinge kind of blends in a little bit and you don't totally see it. So on the glass seal, on the top, on the pinch weld, center in the bottom. That's what I recommend. I recommend on the center because these things shed water this way. And you don't want to put it down in here on the sides. Water will peel in. You definitely don't want it in the top. So once you get your seal in, then you're going to take your dash tab here and you're going to set it in to where it's centered all the way. This little arch right here. There's a little arch that's right there. Make sure that's centered on your latches. So you kind of set it in there. You're going to push it up tight to that seal. grab yourself tapping screws and screw it in. It's really just that simple. Okay, here's where I get a lot of comments from guys, from a lot of people, and it's, you know, it's just part of it. This rubber seal, you know, it's new. It's stiff. In the summertime, it'll relax a little bit. As you open and close, that will relax a little bit. So for the first little while, to latch this, you're really going to need to really push on the outside and then pull it in and latch. Okay, you're going to have to do that on both sides. That is kind of a pain in the butt. Until that rubber really sits in. But if the rubber's loose and all that kind of stuff and it latches really easy, it's just going to let more water and wind in. So, you know, for the first little while, you're going to have to kind of help it, you know, to get it closed. So you'll come on the outside and you'll just pinch it closed like so. Once it's closed, tighten this down, lock it up. And that's really all that it is. It's that simple. It's not hard. I wouldn't say it's the easiest thing to do. Definitely wouldn't say it's the hardest thing to do. It is highly recommended to have a friend help you, just because, you know, everybody's cars, you know, it's not a patina car like mine and some of the other guys that run only patina cars and all that kind of stuff. You got fancy paint, and the last thing you want to do is scratch up your fancy paint. One recommendation or piece of advice that I'll give you, because I've made the mistake, make sure you pull the tape on the top on the outside before you put the frame back in and the glass is all installed. That was a fun day. Had to take it all back out, just take the tape off. So make sure you pull the tape off. Don't pull the tape off on the bottom until you're ready. It's all installed. You're ready to put your pinch shield in. But that's really all that it is. Nothing crazy. But that is really your install. All right, well, I hope you guys liked the video. I hope that helps. Hopefully that clears up a lot of questions that I get. One thing that I will leave you guys with, it is a front window that opens in the front, obviously, and it is susceptible to all of the weather conditions that's outside. So I know there's other builders that have kind of come onto the scene and build out there. Do not believe anybody when they tell you they're 100% waterproof and windproof. If they tell you they are lying to you. I will never tell you that it's 100% waterproof and 100% windproof. It's a window that's in the front that is operable that otherwise shouldn't be, and it is susceptible to all of the elements that are outside. And when you're rolling down the freeway at 65, 70 miles an hour and it's raining, you're probably going to see a drip or two come inside. I've never had anybody say that water gushes in, but personally on some of my cars, I had seen some water drip in. So manage that. If it starts getting wet, clean it up. Don't let it sit in. These things are prone to rusting already. So, you know, enjoy it, have fun. You install it properly, you can roll down the freeway as fast as you want with it open. I know I do. And again, if you liked the video and this was helpful, you know, give me a subscribe and a follow and a like and a bell and all of that other stuff that everybody else says. So I appreciate you guys sticking around and checking this out, and hopefully that helps everybody. We'll talk to you on the next one.